Hey guys, welcome to Out With It. And today I'm in conversation with somebody who quite literally lives in the future. She's the leader of Deloitte's Novel and Exponential Technologies, which is also known as Next. She started her journey in the space of blockchain and transitioned to AI, computing, and spatial computing and more. She also is the host of Deloitte's tech podcast called Tech Talks. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with her as we delve deep into emerging tech and disruptive tech. Presenting to you Raquel Buscaino.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad to be here. I mean,
Me
it's wonderful
too.
to be at USC, back at USC again.
I'm so glad that I actually got to see you in my strategic management class. That's where it started from. And I've had so many guest speakers, but you were truly so inspirational. I just genuinely love that about you. And you were
That's so
so
kind.
nice, like even to meet me and do this. Thank you.
No, that's so kind. I mean, it's definitely a surreal moment when you've taken a class before and then you get to
Yeah,
come back years later and guest lecture and just speak. So
it's amazing.
the joy's mine too.
Of course. Did you have the same professor?
I had
Okay.
a different professor than yours.
Yeah.
And I think some of the professors knew each other and got connected, and
That's
the
where it
rest is
started.
history.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to start this with out with it in 5 seconds round,
Okay,
which is I'm going to throw questions at you and you have to answer within 5 seconds.
I love this.
Okay. Starting strong. So what's one emerging technology that you feel everyone thinks is super underrated but will grow to be really big?
Good question. Maybe so my answer will be biotech.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I think people think it's underrated. I think it's just less visible, so we don't
Yeah.
talk about it. Where something like spatial computing or the metaverse or AI, everyone's talking about it
Mm-hmm.
because we interact with it and we feel it. I think biotech is one where we don't interact with it that much from a consumer side. Or it's not in the public conversation, but it's something that impacts our daily lives quite a bit.
That's very true. But I think that could also be because so many things that get through researchers and then trials and everything don't actually happen. Maybe that could be also one reason.
Yeah,
as
a
to
lot
why,
of clinical trials don't pass, and so
don't
it's
pass. Exactly. Fair enough.
definitely. How did I do for my first answer?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Because I was going to do biotech minor freshman
Oh,
year.
no way.
So yeah,
Okay.
I totally get it.
That's awesome.
The second question is quite simple. What's one thing about your daily routine that is non-negotiable?
So I always make my bed, but I don't always make it in the morning. But before I get into bed every night, I make sure my bed's made. So it's kind
Yeah.
of weird, but it could be 11, 12. I'll make my bed and then get into bed. But for me, it kind of symbolizes that we're winding down from the night.
Yeah.
And no matter how your day starts, you can at least control how it ends.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's actually such a good thought. I never thought of it like that.
But it is weird to be making your bed right before you get in it.
Get
Kind of
in
defeats
it.
the purpose sometimes, but it is a non-negotiable.
No, but the feeling of getting into a made bed is just different.
Yes.
I totally get it. I love that. Okay, the third one is if you were to tell something to your 5-year-old self, what would you tell?
That's a good one. I think for me, it would be that you don't have to be perfect. I think I grew up as one of those kids that was always strove for perfection. So I didn't want the 99. I wanted the 100,
Yeah.
which served me well in so many ways in life, especially in an academic setting. But I think once you get into the real world, you realize that over-indexing on perfection can be stifling. And sometimes I think a lot of people have a hard time transitioning between the academic and the corporate or working world because
For sure.
perfection actually isn't rewarded. It's how fast can you move and can you make the right connections. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be good enough in some cases. So
True.
I think less indexing on perfection and I think it makes life more enjoyable too.
I fully agree. And that's actually the perfect segue to the next question.
Okay, wow, I really jump there.
Yes. Because when I spoke to you last, you always have some goal in life. It's like when you were doing blockchain, you were like, I need to transition. I need to do the podcast. I need to do this next. So what currently is your 5-year goal?
Another great question. I think for me, this is less about a goal or milestone to hit, but something that I really want to embrace in the next 5 years is embodying a culture of corporate consciousness, is what I'll say. And so I was talking with a friend the other day, and she leads meditation retreats.
Okay.
And she kind of told me, yeah, some people will come to do these meditation retreats. they'll go back and they'll work their 9 to 5 and forget everything, and then they'll meditate at the end of the day. But how do we bring consciousness and mindfulness and meditation into our daily lives and practice? And so something that I've been kind of conscious about over the last year or so that I'd really like to take forward with me is how do I bring a spirit of mindfulness into the corporate culture, increasingly become a really mindful leader.
Fair enough. That's actually really good.
So less of like, I will be on the Forbes 40 under 40 list, but more of a real one. Where
a more personal one, I also think, for sure. Last one, pretty simple. What's your favorite cuisine?
I'm a sucker for sushi. I've never said no. It's never not sounded good.
Yeah.
I've never had leftovers from the night before that made it past the morning. Hands down.
Fair enough. Okay. I think that's on my top 2, for sure. Yes. I love that. So that brings us to the end of the segment. But
thank goodness.
but I want to start with the conversation with getting to know more about you. I know so much about you, I think, because you had the talk. But for people who don't know, I want them to understand what Raquel was before she entered Deloitte. Like, what was the journey like from uni to Deloitte?
Yeah. I mean, so not to start at the beginning, but I grew up in Orange County, so USC was always my backyard. I think when I started at USC, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I came in as a physics and comp sci major. I thought that was too quantitative. Then I moved to political science and international relations, and that was not quantitative enough. It's too qualitative. Started studying Arabic, thought I wanted to work in the Middle East, did international relations course. Anyways, landed on business, and then took a couple blockchain classes. At some point, my parents were like, what's going on here? But I think it really set the stage for consulting in many ways for me and the work I do now, because I'm expected to work across emerging technologies and work across clients on a global scale. And so much of what seemed like a distraction, I think in my education has actually been the foundation for where I am today, which has been interesting to connect the dots in hindsight. But while I was living in it, I was like, I don't even know what's happening. I don't know what job I want to do.
Fair enough. That's totally fair. But I also just strongly feel consulting is the type of job that doesn't just stem from business. It's literally every single thing that you've ever learned poured down into one thing. It's amazing. And fully, like, I think your journey is not just about what you did in terms of changing your careers, but also the drive, because changing your careers that many times within college and still landing a job in this day and age is so tough. Like, the fact that the job market is tough, but also you need to start early. It's like, okay, sophomores, you need to start thinking about what internship you want over the summer, and then get a return offer, and then get a full-time job. Like, I think the trajectory has changed quite a bit.
I think so too. And I'd say, I mean, everything in life is a mix of luck and not luck.
Of course,
too. But I remember when I was a freshman, I literally stumbled into a Deloitte info session. It was for seniors.
Okay.
And at the time, I remember they asked at the info session, does anyone have any questions? And I think a lot of the seniors were kind of shy. They were nervous about what questions they were going to ask. And I didn't know anything. I was a physics comp sci major. I just started raising my hand and chatting and talking through it. So I actually started interning at Deloitte from my sophomore year and my junior year too, so getting in early. But that wasn't the norm back then by any means. That was very unconventional.
Of course.
My heart goes out, because I do think it's becoming the norm now, where if you're not on it from the jump, it can be difficult to break into the market later.
It is really tough. I think a lot of factors have played into it, which are completely uncontrollable. But I do think it's also just a generational difference. It's like back then you were allowed to take your time to figure out. Now it's shied upon the fact that you don't know what you're doing. It's like you're already behind in the race, especially in the corporate world, which is really sad, because I know people who are graduating with masters and not getting a job, which is crazy because they've had so much time to even recruit. But I think that's also just not the US, it's everywhere.
I think it keeps getting tougher in many ways. I think one of the things that I'm seeing that's on a positive note for folks who are leaving university is the ability to create your own startup or to pave your own way in the world that to me is what's really an unlock and kind of feels a bit
Yeah.
unprecedented. Is in the past, we'll just take AI as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to start your own company and you're like, okay, I have to have marketing skill sets to do it, and I have to have a business and know how to make a business plan, and I have to figure out how to do finance, and like
Yeah.
there are so many AI
So many
tools
Yes.
that can help accelerate you upon that journey. And so I actually see a lot of people from university making earlier steps into the entrepreneurial space than before.
For sure.
And whether that's because there's a changing job market or because the tools are
Yeah.
more accessible to them, I'm hopeful that the next generation of incredible businesses is going to come out of the students within this decade.
I fully agree with you, because I think that was my next transition to it. Because so many people right now who are starting their careers, whether it's in the job market or even doing their own startups, is not scared of the fact that if it doesn't work, what are they going to do? Because there's no investment cost related to a lot of things that back then had to be, like exactly what you said, AI. There's so many tools, you don't need a team to start something. You could just fully start it yourself and then slowly expand. Love that.
I was reading an article the other day that was
Yeah.
talking about the 3-person unicorn.
Mhm.
It was just, it kind of, unicorn being a company with $1 billion valuation. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was interesting because the article said that's not unfeasible.
Mhm.
That's not unrealistic
Yeah.
in today's day and age. And it was talking about, well, what would be the skills that you would need from those 3 people if you really were going to have a 3-person unicorn? And so I just thought it was an interesting thought experiment that
Yeah.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, everyone would have laughed.
They
Said
would
that's
have.
comical. And now they're like, well, I mean, sure, they're going to be few and far between, but I could see
Yeah.
a future where that happens.
For sure. I think also just this is so funny to me, because we were sitting and chatting yesterday, all of us, and I was just wondering the fact that AI was not there, like ChatGPT was not there freshman year, and it came sophomore year. I can't imagine my life without it. It has had such a huge impact in such a little time that at this point, I don't even know what could happen in the next 2-3 years, and I would be like, wow, this was life before that. It's completely changed everything.
And I think one of the things that I'm really hopeful for students
Mhm.
that have your year, below
Yeah.
your year, that have grown up with AI to some capacity.
Mhm.
And there's this quote that says, emerging tech is anything that happened after you graduate college. So the fact that you can be in college and experiment with
Yeah.
it, I think that's just such a strong leg up.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things we talk about is one of the things that we, work on at Deloitte too,
Mhm.
is all about workforce transformation and
Yeah.
how do we help people learn new skills, especially
Mhm.
with AI. And if you've been doing the same job for 30 years, it can be hard to learn a new skill and incorporate that. And the
For
fact that
sure.
so many students are now AI native in a
Yeah.
way, I think it's such a blessing in so many different ways to have experienced that during your education process.
You get to live with it. I fully agree. That's actually perfect, because I wanted to also ask for students who are in school right now or deciding their majors, is there something specific that would help them if they are to enter tech specifically and study that in college? Which is not to also say that this is only for tech, but also all majors across. Like it could be acting, it could be anything for that matter.
Yeah.
What are some skills that would set them up?
I think maybe the human skills for me are never going to go out of style.
Of course, yeah.
And I think those are increasingly going to be at a premium.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say be light on the tech skills, don't have it. But if you were to say, okay, I'm going to make my life around learning Python.
Yeah.
And now you might not need to know Python in order to develop or code, right? You can see how the human skills kind of remain a little bit more durable, oddly enough, than some of the harder tech skills. So I think focusing on areas where you can develop your human skills, connect with people, learn public speaking, I think those are all wonderful attributes. And then maybe the second piece of advice I'd give is, part of it is probably because it's from my own life experience too, and it's funny how everyone gives advice that lines up with their advice experience, or, their past experience. But for me, I just say, explore your intellectual curiosities. I think sometimes society can force people into very strict boxes, and say, oh, you're just going to study medicine, you're just going to do that. I actually find that a lot of the most interesting people that I meet, the most interesting startups, the most interesting anything,
Yeah.
really happens at the intersection. And it's usually when people are combining two or more of their disciplines together. You see it in even the way we talk about startups.
For
right?
sure, yeah.
Someone says something, I might say, oh, it's like Uber, but for cats. You're like, oh, I see the two mashups you're bringing.
Yeah.
Or even in movies, Lion King, it's Hamlet, but with lions.
Yeah.
And so I think this intentional intersection of disciplines and fields is really going to be increasingly needed. We need more dot connectors in the world. And so
Of course.
I would just encourage students to explore their passions to the extent they can and figure out what makes them come alive.
I love that. That's perfect. Shifting that a little bit more to what you're doing right now at Deloitte. What exactly is Next? Like, how would you explain that to someone? And what is the type of work you guys are doing?
Yeah. So NEXT stands for Novel and Exponential Technologies, our NEXT team, as we call it. I say that we sense and make sense of emerging tech for our firm and the clients we serve. And so what that looks like is it's being in market. It's talking with startups and academic institutions and reading reports that are coming up and making sure that we're staying up to date on the latest and greatest. And then it's saying, okay, well, where do we really see it all heading?
Yeah.
Because I think especially with emerging tech, there's a lot of hype around it. So how do we cut through the hype to try and find, well, what's going to stay, what's going to go in an ever-changing world? There's qualitative ways we do that. There's quantitative ways we do it. But at the end of the day, I think it's so that we can help steer our clients and the market and Deloitte towards a brighter future. I see that for me personally, one of the dreams or driving forces for me is I really want technology to work in the service of humanity and not the other way around, right? Humanity shouldn't work for the service of technology.
Yeah.
And so I think by understanding where emerging tech is heading, that's the first step into figuring out, well, how do we get to a future that really works well for humanity?
Fair enough. That's totally fair. I also strongly feel that with that type of a job, and it's also like with that type of a field, you really need to not just kill the hype, but also give a reality check a lot of times. Because even if, as we've seen in the past, like with Bitcoin and stuff, people who have no idea about it have actually risked so much when it comes to stuff like that. So I do think the knowledge about it should not just be only for people in tech, but it should also be like normalized for everyone. It's like financial education.
Definitely.
Everyone should be talking about it.
And for us, I think a piece of this comes, there's people who are techno-optimists. Like, technology can do no, technology, there's, is the best way
Nothing can
forward.
go wrong, yeah.
There's techno-pessimists, and then there's techno-realists. So the whole spectrum of, where do you see technology heading? I think it's the responsibility of my team, and others in the field who work in a similar space to be able to share both the positive and the negative features. And sometimes you don't want to talk about the negative features, but I'll tell you, a lot of times people come to me and they say, oh, it's like that Black Mirror episode, or it's got me thinking about that, or that different sci-fi future, that dystopian scenario. And so used correctly, science fiction even can be a really helpful way in guiding people towards more positive futures.
For sure.
So you need both the positive view for where we can head, but you also need the negative.
I think, for sure. But I think that's an interesting point, because when I talk to people from an older generation, like my mom's generation, in comparison to even younger than me, like people 16, 15 right now, there's a huge difference between how they even view technology, because older generations are still very pessimistic. They're like, AI is going to take over the world and things are getting so automated. We have no autonomy. Phones are listening, things like that. But younger kids are just so comfortable around it that I think they also have the responsibility to somewhere evolve how the conversations around these topics are undertaken, for sure.
I definitely think we are living at the cutting edge.
We are.
But it is funny because I wonder if when the washing machine came around, how are they going to wash my clothes correctly? I'm sure it's not going to get exactly the spot out that I want. And, I think it's just a baked into our humanity a little bit that when things start changing, it's tough to get on board with those changes. And
for sure.
Once again, though, I think it's good. I think that a lot of older generations give us caution.
They do.
For technology going out of hand. I think a lot of younger generations, then pave the future. So I do think it's a healthy balance.
Yes.
At the end of the day, which is good. But
Yeah.
I do think that the reaction to technology does change typically
sure.
as you get older.
So currently, when we talk about so many things in tech, what do you think is very like I would give an example. I would say spatial computing.
Mm-hmm.
People are really talking about it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're also kind of skeptical of how it's going to look. What is your opinion on technologies like that are still not really mainstream spoken about in a good or a bad light, but there's a lot of ambiguity attached to them?
Yeah. Spatial computing is a really good example
Yeah.
because even from a definition standpoint, it can be hard to
Yeah,
converse. So,
for sure.
for example, is it augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality,
Yeah.
the spectrum of extended reality? Is it the metaverse? You're talking to someone and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with these
Yeah.
terms. For me, spatial computing, metaverse, extended reality, whatever you want to call it, it really talks about the merging between the physical and the digital and how do we combine those within our lives. I think for me, we always see early indications of where things are heading, and they might not hit the mark, right? You might say for the earliest iterations of VR headsets, you might have said, the battery isn't there, the battery life isn't there, the graphic, the resolution isn't too good, or all these things. But that's the worst it's ever going to get.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's kind of expected that the technology is going to evolve. I'd say for me, I think but this is maybe just my perspective, but I think we want technology that works for us and adapts to us.
Yeah.
And so something like spatial, the reason I think the smart glasses, like we are already used to wearing glasses.
Yeah.
It is already normal in society to wear glasses. It's commonplace, right? And so I think something like that has a much more immediate term impact than something that is a VR headset that has pathway capabilities, just because from a social norm standpoint, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, used to it. Yeah.
So I think I'm a bit more bullish on augmented reality and mixed reality, and as we're walking about virtual reality and gaming for when you're at home.
Of course.
And then I think any technology that has a form factor that maps to you is going to be great. I was at South by Southwest. This is about 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember. And Scott G, he's a professor at NYU Stern, was up on the stage. And he said, no one will ever put something on their face that makes them look less attractive. And I kind of laughed.
That's so true, though.
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of makes sense. And
exactly, yeah.
Something that we would want to wear. So I think that's where
it comes, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I've always thought about spatial computing, that I don't understand what uses a regular life would have on it. Like, whether it's that or even businesses, like, where would I use it? So people like that who are not sure about these type of technologies merging into their life, how would you say that, oh, you could use this for maybe going about your day? How does it merge in?
So I'll give one example that we see, which is in the industrial settings. So imagine that you work with your hands. So you're working in a factory setting. Okay. To pull up an instruction manual. Have you ever been baking and have a printed recipe and you're like, man, I've got butter all over my hands.
I can't touch it.
I'm like, I can't touch. So things and occupations that require to be really hands-on, whether that's in the construction of material, the movement through the world, you can imagine how AR glasses could be even more prescient in those cases, right? Or even more useful in those cases. And so you can see those from an industrial lens.
Yeah.
I also think augmented reality on phones is also a good use case to be able to see something in real time.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
So say you've got a power line, you want to be able to train field workers for how to adapt power lines. Well, for some jobs, they're really dangerous to do. And so sometimes the simulation can be helpful. So an example, for jobs that are dangerous, rare, or expensive, being able to simulate in a digital environment so you can practice, or being able to have real-time instructions in a manual pop up during something. So I think we're still exploring so many different use cases, but for me, it kind of is like, well, yeah, if your hands are busy, then that's kind of be good to have something on, on your head. Or if something's dangerous or rare or hard to get to, it'd be great if we could simulate in a digital environment first. So
of course.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Shifting that slightly to even quantum computing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the other thing which I was reading about, and I was like, this is very interesting. I kind of understand it, but I kind of don't. How would you explain that?
Yeah. The best way I could explain it, and by the way, I'm not a quantum physicist theorist
No, that's exactly
by
the
training.
point. Like, I
Yeah.
love the fact that people are having these conversations who are not into coding. Like, I could read about it and still work in the field.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the best way I could describe quantum is that it uses physics instead of math.
Yeah.
So there's a interesting, it's called a Steiner tree.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine you've got a little a wood block, if you will, and you've got 5 different nails in it.
Yeah.
You could design an optimization problem to be able to say, well, what's the most effective route between those nails, right?
Yeah.
And with 5 nails, you could probably do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now say that there's 100 nails.
Mm-hmm.
It would take an immense amount of
Yeah.
time on a classical computer to be able to figure out what that optimization.
If I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
is that because it's in bits?
The reason, so
Yeah.
the classical computer works in bits, quantum
Yeah.
is the world of qubits. But the reason is because to simply design to simply have enough computing capability to
Right.
be able to do that, it would just take a classical computer
Mhm.
so much
So much time.
so much time to be able to do that.
Right.
But now imagine that you've got your wood plank, you got 100 nails on it, and you dip it in some soapy water, and you pull it back up. The soap will actually show you the most effective route. And you're like, it's not because the soap's intelligent.
Right.
It's not like the soap is smarter than we are, is smarter than classical computers.
Yeah.
It's just that physics, it relies on physics, right?
Right.
And so physics has a different way of tackling problems than math. And so for me, my quantum knowledge is probably at like a 101 knowledge at
Yeah.
best. But when I work with our quantum technology partners, and we have
Right.
PhDs and a bunch of folks who are much more equipped to be able to talk about that stuff, we really talk about, well, what are the commercial applications today, and what does that look like?
Fair enough.
And I think that's what's super interesting, because a lot of times quantum's been around like 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been like 5 years away for 30 years now.
Yeah.
And so what can we do today with quantum? A lot of times it's quantum-inspired algorithms.
Right.
And so I think those are the conversations that we're having now, is how can companies like banks use quantum-inspired algorithms to help their business processes, and then hopefully the trajectory of quantum keeps marching on, and then we move into an era where I think a lot of the promises of quantum start to come to fruition.
I'm just trying to mentally link these two together. So
Yes.
do you think that quantum computing would be something that's used for Bitcoin mining? Because it's like you're trying to race to it, right?
So I think a lot of times when quantum comes in the conversation
Yeah.
with Bitcoin or with blockchain, it's really about the security layer.
Of course.
So I think a lot of times, so with quantum, you can say, oh man, look at all the incredible things we're going to do with quantum computing. Then you can say at the same time, wow, quantum comes to fruition, a lot of our current encryption protocols are going to be rendered irrelevant.
Of course.
And so because...
Right. That's the ambiguity, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that oftentimes people might say, well, Bitcoin relies on our current, our current protocol.
principles, I would say, yeah, for sure.
And I think once we do have full-fledged quantum, there's going to be a lot more that we'll have to talk about. I think that's part of the reason that we talk to companies now and say, hey, it's really good to start thinking about your quantum proof cryptography, and it's really important to manage your data now, because what a lot of actors will do is they'll actually take data that's encrypted today, they'll store it in hopes that once quantum becomes full force, if you will,
Of course, yeah.
then they can access the data from that point. So once again, positive and negative.
Of course.
The wonderful things we're going to be able to do once quantum is fully realized. And also, we need to start making sure that we have data policies.
You need to start prepare for it.
Yes,
For sure.
Exactly.
I think that's also a lot of things that happened around AI. It was unregulated. So much of it, even universities had to adapt to it. How are you trying to teach students and let them use a tool that's helpful for them, but it's not plagiarism at the end of the day?
I remember when the number of inquiries and questions from the academic sphere, when GPTs really started coming about in general, and so I think the universities have done
They've done a great job.
a great job of figuring out what the
For
right
sure.
line
I
should
think
be.
especially with timing,
Mm-hmm.
because they take a while to approve things and stuff.
Mhm.
This was moving faster than anything.
Yeah.
They had to,
Yeah.
for sure. But circling a little bit back towards your blockchain journey,
Mhm.
I found your story of how you managed the two sides of it so inspiring. So I do want people to know about it. Like, how did you get into blockchain to begin with?
Yeah. Well, for me, I was studying at USC.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was back as a student. And at the time, I was doing nonprofit pro bono consulting in the finance space,
Yeah.
or with a finance lens towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started hearing about use cases out of sub-Saharan Africa where people who had been traditionally unbanked, unbanked or underbanked were getting access to capital. And that's the first time I heard about Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah.
So for me, the reason that I started studying and looking into it wasn't because I was a deep technologist or had that, to be honest, that much interest in it. I just kind of wanted to know how it worked because I was interested in the nonprofit applications across the board and, providing access to financial capital. Then once I started digging into it, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. At the time, USC, I just started a blockchain class. And so I think when I entered Deloitte, that's what I really wanted to do. Is I wanted to be a part of our blockchain practice and our growing blockchain practice. I think when I entered the firm, I had I'll say a healthy dose of reality, which was I started and I said, I want to work on the most interesting projects that I could possibly imagine, and as expected, no one really gets to work on the most interesting projects
on the first day.
On the first day.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, how unrealistic of me to have that expectation to start with. But it was really an opportunity for me while I was working in fields that were still interesting and still getting to do really interesting project work. On the side, I actually felt like I was hustling a little bit on my side quest to learn more about blockchain and to be more embedded in our blockchain digital asset practice and to meet leaders. And so I felt like I had this dual life that I was working on. And it really showed me at the time, because eventually I did transition into our blockchain practice. And because I was working so hard to try and navigate in that space, is you oftentimes, whether it's at a company, you don't get to choose your first role or project.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be rare that the first company you go to might be the company that you would stay at indefinitely, right? People are having many more careers and jobs throughout their life.
Yeah.
But you get to choose the second one, and you get to choose the third, and then the fourth. And eventually, over time, you triangulate and you find your way towards a niche custom role that only you could have possibly designed, taken enough iterations.
Yeah.
I feel lucky that I feel like I've been able to do that within Deloitte. I started off working in one project space and moved to blockchain. Then after I spent quite a bit of time in our blockchain practice, I got connected with our chief futurist and joined his team called Next at the time. It was just a small team.
Yeah.
And then have been working on the team for half a decade now, and now lead the team. And so feel very fortunate that my pivots have been able to occur within Deloitte, but it's incredible to see the pivots that people can make inside and outside companies too.
Of course. It's really inspiring. Also, especially for people who get disheartened by the fact that they didn't get what they wanted in the first try. Because I always tell people, they're like, it's easier to just pivot from something that you've started than just completely do nothing and wait for the best thing to pop up.
Definitely.
Because it just doesn't happen.
You
it's
just
not reality.
You need to make forward progress.
Yeah.
I remember actually at the time there was a point within or early on in my career where I was deciding, should I go pursue supply chain work or should I do blockchain work?
Yeah.
This was before I had really dove deep into the blockchain space. And I thought to myself, and I was spinning for weeks and weeks and weeks. So which one should I do? Which one? What's the pros and cons? And then finally I said, man, I just got to pick one.
Yeah.
I just got to make some forward progress here. I actually ended up picking supply chain. It's funny. I did a course in it. I learned. I go, actually, it's not really that much for me. So then I went full steam ahead on blockchain. Circle back about a year and a half later. I'm now, working on a proposal for a blockchain used in supply chain. And so for me, I could imagine a world where I could have still been stifled by that today. I could be sitting here being like, should I do blockchain? Or should I do? At some point, you just have to make forward progress and choose one. and then be honest with yourself on how it's going and trust yourself that you're going to find your way on the path that it's meant to be.
I fully agree with you. I fully do. Because even within, like, this is a very random example, but I truly commend the girl for it. One of my friends, she's working at Disney, and she works as a princess in Disney.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's an actress.
Amazing job.
Right? Amazing job. But she's in the same program as me, so we're both studying business together. She's a Cinderella. Everything's great, but she was like, this cannot be my full-time job. I need to transition. She met enough people within Disney, and now she's an asset manager, which is amazing. Completely two different trajectories, but it's so easy if you really want to do something to get it. I really strongly feel that you're very inspiring for that, like transitioning into so many things. I love that.
That's kind. And I'll commend the person in your class too. Something that is surprising to me is, and I'll make it more general than Disney or Disney princesses.
Of course.
You could go online and apply for jobs and submit your resume to 10,000 places and not hear back from a single place.
For sure.
Which I think is a lot of an experience that a lot of people might resonate with. Is, I just didn't hear back.
Yeah.
It's so rare to receive an email from someone, a kind note to someone that says, hey, I've been following your work for quite some time. I really found it inspirational. I'd like to go in here, which probably net for net takes less time than applying to 10,000 jobs on whatever platform. Yeah. It really cuts through and is so differentiated in the space. And so I don't know how your classmate did it, but she was probably, she had the in by being with the company and said, I'm going to take it upon myself to pivot in a way. I'll just find the right person to connect to or find the right group to connect with, and
I fully think so. I also just feel cold emailing also works. Like, you could literally reach out to people you truly resonate with, but one important fact of that is you need to offer some value. Like, why should you talk to me to begin with? How am I offering anything to you? Which is really important. And I'm sure everyone has something they can offer. Yeah. It can never be that I'm just a blank slate.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. And offering something can be your time, so I'll say we've got a lot of colleagues right across the globe. So I do get some outreach emails, but it can be, hey, I've been following your work for some time. Would love to help contribute in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe I've got 5 hours a week for the next 5 weeks. Is there anything I can lead a hand on?
Exactly.
So that's providing your time.
Yeah.
It can also be your insights. I don't think a lot of people realize how much they bring to the table. I was talking with someone and they started telling me about that they worked in the fashion space for quite some time. And I go, oh, that's interesting. I don't really know that many people who work in fashion. What are some of the trends you're seeing? She started sharing about trends at the intersection of tech and fashion.
That's amazing.
That's of value to me because I don't know that many friends in fashion.
Fair enough.
So I think your point is such a strong one, which is you always have something to offer. Yeah. It's how you phrase that and how do you reach out with kindness, how do you do something in a differentiated way and also provide value? I think more people can do it.
For sure. I completely agree. Transitioning that to slightly more disruptive technologies. And I would solely say this, prefacing this, I do not know much about technology. So I'm going to talk from my perspective on how I view disruptive things in general.
I love it.
I'm writing my thesis on the jewelry market. And currently the biggest issue we have is lab-grown diamonds.
Okay.
They also have lab-grown imitation of different stones, but they haven't reached the same spot yet. But I think everybody at this point knows that it's going to be not that far away, where the entire natural industry is kind of imitated in a way. So that, I would say, is such a huge transition for certain people because it's not just consumer mindsets, but it's also supply. It's overproduced at this point, to the point where the comparison between prices is like $2 versus $3,000-$4,000. That's the price difference between the two. So what's something in tech you feel is not yet a disruptive technology but might turn into one and affect an industry?
It's a really good question. Something that I think is increasingly being talked about now is physical AI and robotics. So how do we have intelligent systems that operate within our world? So you can think about this as humanoid robots. You can think about this as self-driving cars, right? Yeah. So there's drones. It could be an example if they're autonomous. Would be a factor in here. And I think the reason it's disruptive in the way that you're talking about, similar to your jewelry market example, is it tackles it from the supply side. There's the consumer. There's so many different lenses to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we realize as humanity how much we've designed our world in ways that will change.
Yeah.
So an example here. If self-driving cars become so prevalent, does that mean now I'm not so worried about my morning commute to and from the city? Does that mean there's now going to be an expansion of the suburbs and cities are going to slowly go away because that's not a driving when I don't.
You don't need to.
I'll watch Netflix for an hour and a half if I need to on the ride.
Yeah.
Or something like humanoid robots. We have so many robots in our house right now. We just call them a washing machine. We just call them a dishwasher. We call them, And so we've become norm to them. So even if we think, 10 years down the line maybe, where it could be feasible to have a humanoid robot in your house that can pick up and do chores, right? What does that mean for the cleaning industry, right? What does that mean for the way that we architect layouts of homes?
Yeah.
So there's so many ripple effects, I think, and that's really, I think, what maybe the heart of the question is what's the technologies where we don't even know where the ripple effects are going to be.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's intelligent machines moving through our world because that changes
a lot of
things. Yeah,
I agree for sure. That's very interesting because even self-driving cars to me was a huge thing that I never expected before I came back to LA for fourth year. And now it's like so normalized here.
It's so normalized.
Yeah.
So normalized. It's funny in the past. I mean, I live in Santa Monica near Marina. In the past 2 years, the uptick of self-drive, it was a novelty.
It was.
And now it's weird if you drive and you don't see at least a couple.
Agreed.
So
it's crazy. It's also driverless cars. That is another thing which I was like, wow. Like Waymo, for example. Like that's crazy the way that they've... Also, it's cheaper, so it's even more incentive to take it. There's still some people who would say, okay, safety, I'm not so sure. I'm not so like comfortable around it. But it's novel and it's working well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, you do it once, and then you realize, okay, could be even safer than some of the other transportation modes you're in. So
yeah.
I do think it's going to pick up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Someone asked a question to me. They go, do you think my kid, they're like, my kid's 5. They're like, do you think they'll need a driver's license? I don't know.
Yeah.
I maybe not. You can ask people in New York City. They're like, some of my friends in New York City that don't have driver's licenses. They're doing fine, but
yeah, for sure.
I think the future's still to come, but I think it'll be less likely.
For sure. This is a far-fetched question, maybe sci-fi, but
I love the sci-fi questions.
Do you think flying cars would be a thing?
So every year at the Consumer Electronics Show, there's always a flying car section. There's like some demo, and everyone looks at it, and we kind of probe it, and we say, "Is this?"
Yeah.
So there's that. I've seen it many years. Right?
Yes.
There's always a flying car exhibit. Yeah. I'll say, I don't think I'll ever say never.
Yeah, of course not.
I think for me, it's always over what time horizon. So do I think flying cars will be a thing? Probably.
Yeah.
With enough time, yeah. I think we're gonna. I think the next 100 years of transformation, I couldn't even fathom what it will look like. It will be so remarkable in so many different ways. So the answer is yes. I do think that could be a future we're head to, but maybe not. And
in the next 2-3 years.
No. I wouldn't hold your breath on it personally.
Yeah. Personally, fair enough.
Yeah, things move quick.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Also because I feel like that brings another issue to it. It's like regulations. How are you going to regulate the sky?
Yeah.
It's like talking about air traffic at that point, not just about flights, but so many other issues. And the perfect segue for that would also be lunar exploration and space exploration. We spoke about this last time slightly, but what is interesting in that field right now?
Gosh, this is one of my favorite topics. I love this. I think right now we are entering a profound time with our journey within space. I mean, for all intents and purposes, right? We haven't set foot on the moon. We haven't been to the moon in over 50 years.
Yeah.
And now we have real plans to go back to the moon, soon, right? So I think I'm so glad that I'm alive during this time.
Yeah.
Truly, I feel like it's an incredible time to be a part of the space industry. The space industry has also expanded from just a government-only game to now it's a hub of commercial and government collaboration, which is really exciting. I think for me, low Earth orbit, or LEO, if you will, it has a lot of the promise that we're seeing in the short term and immediate term, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that lunar activity is kind of a bit further out. So I'd say in Earth's orbit right now, everything with satellites, the fact that constellations of satellites are providing internet access to previously hard to reach or unreachable areas. The fact that you can dial in from the plane. I actually was on a plane the other day and someone FaceTimed me and I accidentally accepted it. Like I was fumbling with that, accepted it. And I go, how crazy that right now, and I shut it off because you're not supposed to, but how crazy that we're at this point with connectivity. So I think, constellations of satellites, I think there's incredible research you can do in utilizing microgravity. So the International Space Station has been around for about 25 years and thousands of research experiments have been conducted on there. And a lot of times they harness the properties of microgravity to be able to do research that you simply cannot do on Earth. Now there's a whole crop of commercial space station companies that are increasingly on the rise to help further democratize commercial access to space.
Of course, yeah.
So I think that the thing that's interesting about space is it touches so many different industries.
It does, yeah.
You have fashion companies that are designing space
Prada, yeah,
okay?
exactly.
You've got automotive companies that are helping collaborate on lunar rovers. You've got tech players that are thinking about data storage and compute in space. So it's a very interesting time because space is no longer for the space companies, if you will. It's really for all companies.
I fully agree. I do remember you mentioning something related to biotech and space. I would love to talk about the intersection of that.
Yes.
So currently, what do you think is the most important change that we need to bring about in the industry for this to actually happen in the near future?
Yeah. So when it comes to biotech and space, which I think is a wonderful, like going back to our beginning of our conversation, we're talking about intersections of industries and disciplines, right? It's all coming together. I think you can think about it from a research side and an actual manufacturing side too.
Right.
So on the research side, being able to do life sciences, biopharma research in space, utilizing the properties of microgravity, it can unlock a tremendous amount of insights. I don't come from I don't have a biotech, bioscience, biology degree, so to even fumble my way through some of the research experience would be a disservice. But
fair enough.
Incredible things you can do on the research side. And I think it's important to know that this isn't research so that astronauts can go further and further into space, although, of course, that's a piece of it. But it's research to benefit life on Earth. So the research lens. But there's the actual production of goods and services. So you can... and it's not just for the life sciences companies too, but even semiconductors. You can manufacture with finer precision. And so there's a lot of different things you can do utilizing microgravity. So, but your question, what are some of the limiting factors that we need to overcome to get there? I think for research, a lot of the times it's how do we just make people aware of the opportunities in space? How do we make sure it's at a price point that makes sense? So there's a lot of companies that are now filling the void to make it that price point viable. Because it'd be crazy if you're like a research institution. What do you mean I have to get a rocket? Like, no, right? So you work with someone who has it.
Of course.
So I think it's awareness. I think it's the price point. And I think it's a proof of the value that it can bring. And I think more people are coming to realize that too. When you actually go and start to think about producing goods in space and how do you bring them back down? So we talk a lot about up mass, how things go up. But what's the market for how you bring things back down to Earth? And there's regulations that talk about how you can do so safely. There's supply chain conversations for how you're going to get things back down and then get them to the place you want to get there. So
it's, I think, a lot of geopolitical issues as well. Like, how do you claim what's yours and what's not?
I think that's it's a bigger conversation than just biotech and space. But yeah, space is, I'm hopeful. I'll say the space for most of space's history. I'll say has shown how we can work across boundaries. How no matter what's happening from a geopolitical lens, space has kind of stayed as one of the strongholds for human collaboration, human spirit.
Yeah.
So I really love that, because I think at the end of the day, our shared sense of humanity, I think space brings that together. And so as we go back to the moon, I know that there will likely be many conversations to come about how things will unfold in the right policy, but I hope we move to a world where space can continue to be that beacon of light for our shared sense of humanity.
I hope so too. I think that's where uniformity really comes in. Like, it shouldn't be up for grabs. It's not like one is fighting the other. But I do think that even the fact that we've moved from a completely governmental control to a more private and governmental collaboration, I don't see a future where we're just connected through boundaries. Like, we're not like just one country has the control over everything. I think you cross it,
one of the things examples that kind of bring this to light is, the tragedy of the commons too.
Yeah.
Let's even talk about like space debris a little bit. But if you have so much space debris, say I'm a country who's being laissez-faire and with satellites, I'm not deorbiting, or worse, I'm using ASATs and anti-satellite weaponry and blowing shrapnel up, and now there's increasingly more space junk and orbiting around. At some point, you reach a threshold where you say, well, actually, those orbits can't be used, and so it's a little bit of a tragedy of the commons. And so, I do think that the risk of treating space, whether that's the moon, whether that's our orbits, it's good that we're aware of those risks too, because it also helps lead to good actors and decision making, hopefully in the short run. Now, there's examples where companies or in countries don't follow that. Frustrating,
It is frustrating,
but it's in a way it is good guardrails for us.
Yes,
because if someone goes off the rails, and could hurt us all.
Yeah, I actually just thought of one example of multiple countries collaborating. Artemis Accords, for example. There's so many countries that are actually signed on to it. So, especially I think when we look at it from the Earth's perspective, it's so big. Like, it just isn't possible to be a one-man job. Like, it has to be collaborative at some point. And I think people would eventually understand that. And more than people, I would say, collective people would understand that at some point.
What's the phrase? If you want to go far, or if you want to go first, go. If you want to go far, go alone. What's the phrase? If you want to go further, go together. I don't know. I just butchered that phrase. It's a very common phrase. I probably should know. But the essence being, it necessitates the collaboration to be able to move forward.
For sure. Lastly, this is even funnier. So I was researching blockchain, and I also read this book on blockchain that was written by one of our professors.
Okay.
But the most interesting thing that I came across, and yes, people were talking about this for so long, was the person who founded it, like founded Bitcoin and the whole thing of his identity not being known. What's your view on that? Like, why would you even think of not revealing your identity?
That's a good question. It's something I remember in my blockchain 101 class back at USC. I think it was the second day. Like, who is this Satoshi guy?
Satoshi guy, exactly. I was like, who is this? What is it? I think that's also why people are so drawn to the conversation, because they're like, this is very interesting. It grabs your attention. Like, why?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because there's anonymity, which is there's nothing that's tracing you back. Then there's pseudonymity, right? Yeah. Right. Then you can just be who you are if you're on the other side of the spectrum from anonymous, right? It's just, I'm Raquel Buscaino, and this is who I am. I do think it brings in some of the allure. Yeah. Maybe my perspective on this is maybe a lot of people couldn't want to for criminal reasons. That could be an avenue. I think people could not want it, the notice for fame reasons,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to operate in the world.
Yeah.
Some people know that they just want to do interesting tech work, right? And so they just want to be able to do what they love,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think people approach both anonymity and pseudonymity
Yeah.
for various different reasons across the board. And I'm sure there's many other reasons
Many,
that
of course.
I haven't chatted
Yeah.
with. And I think that even outside of technology industries, it's something that I know some artists,
Artists.
right, will
yeah.
conceal themselves, right,
Mhm.
because they just want to focus on creating good art. And
Yeah.
so you'll never know the reason, I think, or maybe you will if they reveal
course.
themselves. You'll never know the reason,
Yeah.
but it definitely does keep it more interesting than not.
I think it is, because I think it's a building block of the anonymous identity thing, and then it builds on to be like, okay, even the people who are mining would be anonymous, and then the whole thing is encrypted. I think the whole idea of Bitcoin and blockchain having so much like traceability and alongside with the anonymity adds to the lure.
It is almost
Yeah.
like a paradox.
It's
in
a
way.
paradox,
You have
yeah.
technology that provides so much
Trace-
transparency, auditability, immutability,
Mhm.
yet has so much anonymity and
Yeah.
pseudonymity tied to it. It's interesting.
It's
I
very
haven't really
interesting.
thought about it in
Yeah.
quite that paradoxical way, but it is true to a certain
It's
extent.
very true.
We're living at a time when there's so many founders, creators
Yeah.
that are moving from 0 to 1 as quickly as possible. And so to be able to see the personalities emerging from the ecosystem, the initiative,
Yeah.
add in the anonymity, add on the dynamics between venture capital and founders and the tension, who's who. And, it's a very different ecosystem than, say, 50 years ago when there wasn't as much entrepreneurial spirit and
For
you
sure.
just go work at the company that your father worked at for 50 years and you'll continue working there and your sons and daughters will work there too.
I agree. So we're almost at the end of our conversation, but I want to end this on a interesting yet very like forward futuristic note.
Okay.
What is one sci-fi book or maybe Black Mirror episode or anything, any type of media that you have consumed so far that you believe would in the near future or should in the near future be a reality?
I love this question. One of the TV series that I really like is called For All Mankind.
Uh-huh.
And the premise of the show is, what if the Soviets had won the space race? And so instead of having 50 years where humans haven't gone back to the moon, what if we moved even at a quicker pace and what that would look like?
Interesting.
What I like about the show is it's really embedded to a certain extent in what would be technically feasible.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the technologies that they talk about, they brought in scientists and technologists as part of the show's formation to make it seem realistic. It's not so willy-nilly. It's far out there.
Of course.
But it is an interesting look because you're watching the show. You're looking at scenes that are from the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
But the progress they've made in space exploration is something that we would have planned for 2050.
Oh, wow.
So couldn't recommend it enough.
I love that.
I think it paints once again, the positive and negative sides, the tensions that we need to balance to correctly talk about technology in ways that are meaningful.
I love that.
Yeah.
That sums it up perfectly. Yeah. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, I asked you to bring a catchphrase of your journey.
Yes.
So I just want you to write your catchphrase, show it to the camera, and sign it.
I love it. It's funny. It was a good question to think of in advance. I'm glad I did. You're going to see my messy handwriting.
I love it, though.
Okay. Which camera?
This one.
This one? Okay.
So I love it. The rules are fake.
The rules are fake. I often find that sometimes we let our limiting assumptions and beliefs impact our worldview in very nuanced and subtle ways. And so, as you go and embark into, the corporate space or take on a new job, sometimes you focus on norming to what these rules are.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the rules have been arbitrarily set, and they're not even rules, they're more just norms. And so I just think the world needs more rule breakers, and don't take the status quo and challenge orthodoxies where you can.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's
That's
my
really
quote.
good. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much for doing this. And I had so much fun talking about this.
I know it's a great conversation. We covered so many different technologies.
Yeah.
I also love hearing your perspective on where things are at too, because you've got such a rich, nuanced perspective, just given your role as a student here.
Thank you so much.